The scene opens with the undead describing themselves as those who can't die even after dying. For them, immortals who have escaped the cycle of life and death, dominating a single dimension was not difficult. Obtaining the dimension called Earth was only a matter of time, or so they had thought. The undead skeleton angrily asks Kang Hyun, standing in the fire, how this could be, how a mere human could do it, and how he was still alive. Kang Hyun responds angrily that maybe it was because he was sturdier than those guys, and with a single blow, he broke the skull into pieces. The scene shifts to 2 years ago, where Kang Hyun, the main character, is being shouted at by Ian, his older sister, who says that she can't be with him anymore and that she had let him live there because Kang Hyun had told her that he was job hunting. Instead, he spends every hour playing games. She warns Kang Hyun angrily that if he was going to be like that, then he should go to their mom and dad's house. Kang Hyun hesitantly says no, as he can't rely on their parents at that age. Ian angrily points out that his younger sister was okay and that he had an allowance as well, and as tomorrow was the new year, he should get a part-time job. Kang Hyun asks her to leave it till tomorrow, as his head is spinning, and with that, he closes the door of the room. Kang Hyun throws himself on the bed and realizes that he is being pathetic. Why is he living like this? The only thing he had done after coming to Seoul was getting a short-term internship at a major corporation, and he decides that he should find a gig stacking boxes or something soon. As Kang Hyun turns to the side, he realizes that he forgot to turn off his game before he left. Kang Hyun thinks about how much better it would be if real life were a video game, and then he could get a pretty decent job as well. Kang Hyun tosses himself to the other side, muttering the name of the game, Warrior Wizard Swordsman, and with that, he falls asleep. Suddenly, some blank screens appear in his room. The screen begins to display that a general connection was detected from the Haken dimension, but then the Earth defense system is activated, and the Haken connection is temporarily denied, and that the tutorial will now begin on Earth. Suddenly, Kang Hyun jolts awake, shocked, as he sees words floating in front of his eyes on the screen. Suddenly, the screen displays a welcome message for him, calling him by his name, Kang Hyun, and starts narrating that the tutorial will have 8 stages and that death in that place was not connected to reality. Kang Hyun would be unable to give up halfway, and if he failed, he would not be able to try again. The screen shows that when the tutorial is cleared, he will be given an awakening and a reward. Kang Hyun, astonished by all this, realizes that this is the kind of dream only severe game addicts needing treatment can dream up. He begins to apologize to his mom and dad and promises his sister that he would find a job. Kang Hyun screams in joy that who cares if it is a dream? Maybe it is a sign from God to go all out one last time. As Kang Hyun stands up, the screen appears, displaying that Kang Hyun is entering stage 1 and that they wish that Kang Hyun's courage saves the Earth. It displays that the clear condition for Kang Hyun is to reach the destination point at the end of the bridge, and the fail condition is death. As Kang Hyun is confused about the bridge, suddenly the surroundings change, and Kang Hyun finds himself standing high above a bridge over hot lava. As Kang Hyun looks around, he sees other people like him standing on different bridges, confused about how they ended up there. As Kang Hyun begins to question what kind of stupid dream this is, he hears his name being called from his side. Kang Hyun turns to see his sister, Kang Ian, on the bridge beside him. Kang Hyun shouts out why she is in his first dream of the year and how ridiculous it is. Ian asks Kang Hyun if it is for real, only a dream, and why he is suddenly talking about saving the Earth. Kang Hyun calls her out and asks her not to act like it is her dream, as it is his dream. Ian, annoyed, says that how could the lava be that hot if they were inside a dream? Also, how is it possible to have such a natural conversation in a dream? She asks Kang Hyun if he doesn't think that something is wrong. Kang Hyun nonchalantly replies that the brain can be easily tricked, and people are lying when they say that they can't feel pain in their dreams. Kang Hyun says that he has had experiences where he felt like he was pissing for real, only to wake up relieved that his blanket was safe. Ian, disgusted, says that he did a great job saying something so embarrassing in front of his sister. Kang Hyun steps forward and tells her that he is leaving, to which Ian asks where he is going. Kang Hyun says that it's said to reach the end of the bridge, and well, he guesses since it is his dream, an NPC like her wouldn't know. Ian, angry, says that she saw it too, but isn't Kang Hyun scared that he might fall? Kang Hyun proudly asks his sister if she is stupid, since it is a dream, and if he dies, he will wake up again. His words are cut off as they see a person falling into the lava. The whole area is filled with the terrifying screams of the person. As Kang Hyun stands there in shock, Ayan asks him what he is saying. Kang Hyun replies that the scream just sounded a little realistic, but he is not scared at all. Ayan sighs and tells him not to do anything stupid. She tells him that if he is going to move, he should not walk but crawl instead. Kang Hyun replies that he is not scared, but if she says so, he will do it like that. As they both start crawling, Ayan asks Kang Hyun what he thinks happened to them, to which Kang Hyun says that he thinks it's a very realistic nightmare. Ayan says that Kang Hyun should have realized that it is not the case. And does he really think that a dream could be that realistic? There is definitely something that has happened that they can't begin to imagine, and if they die there, then maybe they die in real life too. Kang Hyun, frustrated, says that he is trying his best to ignore it, so why does she keep bringing it up? He is stuck there, frozen in fear. Ayan realizes that he must be the most unreliable older brother in the world. Kang Hyun, exhausted, says that they should rest a little before continuing, as he can't crawl anymore since his hands and legs are shaking badly. Ayan asks Kang Hyun if he is going to lie down just like that on his side, to which Kang Hyun says that there is still a possibility that it is a dream and maybe if he stays still, he will wake up on his own. Suddenly, a screen appears in front of them, displaying that a set time has passed and now the difficulty will be increased, and they hear all the people screaming that the bridge is collapsing. Kang Hyun realizes that his bridge has also started to crack apart and starts to run. He realizes that it is okay, as the bridge is not too narrow, and if he doesn't trip, he will reach the end. As Kang Hyun runs straight, he realizes that he is just near the end, but suddenly his eyes land on the debris cracking above his sister's head. Kang Hyun impulsively jumps over to her bridge, quickly drags her away from there, and jumps over to the end. The screen again appears, showing that they have cleared stage 1 and have temporarily awakened for their clear award. Kang Hyun lays tired, saying that he can't even move a finger, and asks his sister if she wouldn't thank him for saving her life. Ayan boringly thanks him and asks Kang Hyun, looking at the screen in front of her, what the level, strength, and agility mean. Kang Hyun realizes to himself that it is a status window and that this is what a man wants to receive on his birthday. As Kang Hyun gets up to look at his status window, overwhelmed, he starts to scream, and he wakes up in his room again. Kang Hyun, confused, asks if it must have been a dream. The scene shifts to Kang Hyun's home, where both he and his sister come running to the hallway, telling each other about the dream they had. As both were talking non-stop, Ayan, being annoyed, asked Kang Hyun to let her speak first, to which Kang Hyun shouted that she was the one interrupting him. After both calm down a little, Ayan suggests that they should have something to eat first, to which Kang Hyun agrees. As they sit down to eat and check their mobile phones, they realize that all the people had the Kim Hyun dream. Ayan, being shocked, says that it was not just a dream and it was not just their country. It seemed that people all over the world had the Kim Hyun dream. Kang Hyun says that he guesses dying in the dream does not affect reality, and it was being said that 3 out of 4 people fell, but there were no serious injuries. Ayan, retaliating, says that still, it was so vivid and that falling must have hurt like hell, and she had heard those who actually fell were traumatized. She asks Kang Hyun if it was okay for them to be eating like that as it seemed total chaos outside. Kang Hyun asks what else they could do and that they might as well eat properly, or else was she going to jump into the chaos. As Kang Hyun looked out of the window, all the people on the street were fighting each other over small things. Some were asking people to repent, as the time of judgment had arrived, while others were destroying everything. Ayan, seeing all this, says that they cannot go to work, to which Kang Hyun agrees and says that going out would only get them hurt. Kang Hyun asks Ayan if she remembers anything about the Haken dimension connection. Ayan says that Kang Hyun didn't look at his status window properly, as they said that he could at least check the remaining time for temporary awakening. Ayan calls out a time check, and the screen appears in front of her, displaying that there were 5 years left for the connection. Ayan asks Kang Hyun if they will be able to prepare for the situation for 5 years, to which Kang Hyun replies, saying that it was chaotic at that time but everything would calm down soon and that it was better to stay at home for some time. Ayan realizes that Kang Hyun's words were making sense. After the morning chaos, nothing significant had happened. Until evening, everyone returned to their normal lives, and hence peace was regained over Korea in just a day, and the first day came to an end. The scene shifts to Kang Hyun laying in his bedroom, and the screen appears in front of him, displaying a welcome message for Kang Hyun. As the screen displays the message asking Kang Hyun if he would like to see the explanation and instructions for the basic interface, Kang Hyun, not being interested, asks it to skip that and show him the status window first. As Kang Hyun checks his status window, he realizes whether it was good or bad, and with nothing to compare it with, he could not judge it. As he further checks on his status window, his eyes catch a unique ability of resurrection, and Kang Hyun, grinning happily, thinks that it must be an overpowered cheat ability. As the screen describes the ability to be able to resurrect after 24 hours of death and much more, Kang Hyun, being overwhelmed, realizes that it was amazing and there was no way that his life was meant to be just an extra. The screen asks Kang Hyun if he would like to enter the second stage, which Kang Hyun, without any hesitation, accepts with a yes. Kang Hyun thinks that whether his stats were high or low, he could just raise them. As a miracle resurrection man, what can he not do? The scene shifts to some mysterious palace ground where Kang Hyun had to fight a weird-looking goblin, which Kang Hyun was able to do easily with a few strikes from his weapon. Kang Hyun realizes that it was as he had thought it to be a combat since the system is similar to the game, and sure enough, it was like that. Kang Hyun realizes that he had managed to take it down with a surprise using the mace, but the sensation of striking down a living being made his whole body tingle. As Kang Hyun realizes that he killed it, he feels like he would throw up, and he was only able to win because it was a goblin, and if he hadn't surprised it, he would have ended up like that. As Kang Hyun turns around to walk away from the corner, he gets shocked to see another big goblin standing there looking at the dead goblin. As the screen shows Goblin Militia, Kang Hyun realizes that there were two of the goblins from the start and questions if the goblin wasn't supposed to be a low-level mob for beginners. Kang Hyun realizes that the one in front of him was much bigger than the previous goblin and that his sword was over 1 meter long, and if he got hit by that, it wouldn't end just with tetanus. The goblin swirls his sword high in the air and strikes Kang Hyun with a hard blow. Kang Hyun realizes that with a body chronically lacking exercise due to unemployment and the mace, the weapon he chose at the start of the tutorial was only 70 centimeters long. There was no way he could stand a 1 meter long sword. Kang Hyun was thrown away in the air with blood oozing out from everywhere, as he was unable to move a limb. Kang Hyun realizes why he had to go through all that. Why would Goblin just kill him, and when he will wake up from the dream? Kang Hyun unconsciously questions how much blood a human body contains. He didn't realize it until he confirmed it with his own blood. The slowly approaching fear of death tightens coldly around his neck, and the agony he endured for hours until his breath ceases becomes the merciless torture inflicted by the 4 goblins. Kang Hyun wakes up screaming, startling his sister, Ayan. She dashes into his room, scolding him for why this keeps happening in the morning, only to find him shivering under a blanket. Kang Hyun mutters the name of the goblins to explain his terror. After listening, Ayan asks if he died from excessive bleeding. He nods, explaining that the goblins started by pulling off his fingernails and toenails one by one, crushing them, and, as if that wasn't enough, and they also ripped out his teeth. Ayan tells him to stop saying such cruelty. She informs him that she also died, though it wasn't quite like that, and questions why he's crying. Furious, Kang Hyun asks if she even understands that if she experienced even a fraction of what he did, she would cry and call for their mother too. Ayan suggests that he doesn't need to go to the hospital, adding that the number of psychiatric visitors has doubled in the past 2 days, meaning others likely had similar experiences. Kang Hyun reflects on this for a moment and says he doesn't think he'd like to visit the hospital. Ayan calls that good news and guesses that, since he died, the tutorial must be over. Kang Hyun feels relieved, thinking he can finally sleep more peacefully. But to his misfortune, at night the system window suddenly pops up in front of him, welcoming him and stating that an error occurred in the second stage, and he is now being transferred to it immediately. Kang Hyun grits his teeth, cursing the system. In the tutorial, Kang Hyun realizes that he had zoned out, fallen asleep, and zoned out again for hours. He thought enduring it would wake him up, but there's no sign of that happening. He gets up, determined to act. Last time, he chose a mace because of its destructive power, but since combat above level B is terrifying, he decides that a spear would be better for close combat than a sword. He picks both weapons, thinking he will show off the shooting skills of a South Korean reserve soldier. Sneaking up behind the goblins, Kang Hyun fires an arrow, hoping it works. However, when the arrow merely grazes a goblin, the creature becomes furious. Kang Hyun realizes that using a new weapon won't go smoothly. He charges with his spear, successfully piercing the weakest goblin, but as he tries to move around, he finds himself frozen. As he tries to free it, the goblin Miltia slashes him in two. Kang Hyun wakes up from the tutorial, shivering, thinking that this time he died quickly, but at least it's over. To his dismay, however, the game summons him again. Frustrated, he contemplates his weapons and picks a sword and shield, reasoning it's better to use something familiar. After spending the entire day studying how to wield them properly, he excitedly prepares for battle but still ends up getting killed. Despite his failure, Kang Hyun smiles creepily, thinking he has to keep trying, though his sister is clearly troubled by his behavior. After that, he dies again and again. He practices relentlessly, swinging his sword aimlessly. According to the status window, this method is the standard way to train. Kang Hyun recalls that he received a status point for clearing the first stage, though in his haze, he temporarily forgot. Since remembering things isn't his strong suit, he decides to invest a point into strength, giving him a total of 2 points in that stat. Determined to take revenge on the goblins, Kang Hyun keeps grinding, but exhaustion sets in. In round 5, he is too worn out to kill even a single goblin and dies instantly. However, by round 6, after 10 hours of training, he increases his stamina and strength by 1 point each. Now, defeating 2 goblins becomes manageable. Still, due to his weak physical abilities, handling the rest remains beyond his skill. In the Kim Hyun round, Kang Hyun keeps swinging his sword until he collapses from fatigue. Finally, he unlocks the skill basic swordsmanship. Overwhelmed with joy, he screams in celebration, thanking the system while cursing the goblins like a madman, vowing to kill them all. In tutorial stage 2, there are 5 damned goblins, 2 in the early part of the fortress and 3 in the second half. For now, the first 2 are the easy ones. He performed a surprise attack on the first goblin with a crossbow, then took care of the other using a sword. The problem lies with the remaining 3 in the forest. He can handle 2 the Kim Hyun way as before, but the last one is the real obstacle. It's the goblin Miltia who is blocking Kang Hyun's way. While fighting him, Kang Hyun realizes he can now see the goblin's attacks, and it feels like his body reacts before he even thinks about it thanks to his swordsmanship skill. He barely grazes the goblin, thinking there's still a problem. He has already exhausted himself and lost a lot of stamina dealing with only 4 of them. The goblin tries to attack Kang Hyun. It retaliates with a slash, but Kang Hyun dodges it with ease, mocking the goblin, saying they're really enjoying this. He adds that there's a reason he doesn't kill right away. They make their opponent tired first. Kang Hyun kicks the goblin down, screaming that its attack patterns are so obvious. He pulls out a stone to injure its leg, sneaks up behind it, and screams that he's the strongest. Then he punches the goblin down, finishing it off. Smiling, he mutters that this is so boring and even jokes that this stage is so dull, he's trying to die from boredom. The system window pops up, congratulating Kang Hyun for clearing stage 2. He receives an additional 5 stars as a reward and can now choose a weapon. Both the basic shield skill and the basic crossbow skill are unlocked as well. Kang Hyun screams in excitement, boasting that this is the power of the ultimate being, and curses the goblins as he leaves. The scene shifts to his home, where Kang Hyun says he will make breakfast as a celebration. Even though he knows he made it himself, he still feels proud. But, to his surprise, a loud earthquake shakes the house. Ian comes in, asking what happened. Meanwhile, the status window appears before them, stating that Earth's tutorial is complete. It also says they can now use the system freely outside the tutorial, and a dungeon has been activated. The 2 of them move to the balcony to see a strange dungeon that has appeared in front of their home. The system explains that dungeons can only be used by awakeners and must be completed within a specific time. It also displays the time remaining until complete connection with a dimension hack. 4 years, 357 days, 13 hours, 59 minutes, and 51 seconds. After the dungeon's appearance, the world grows more chaotic. At first, they decided to stay inside and organize some information. Kang Hyun tells his sister it seems like the tutorial isn't entirely over yet. He mentions that people who just turned 18 are now being sent to clear the tutorial. Ian states that the comment section is in chaos because of the dungeon. People are saying it was a hasty decision to call the tutorial completers awakeners and send them to clear the dungeon. Kang Hyun points out that the most important thing is to benefit from the status windows. He calls for the status window, but nothing happens. Instead, the system window appears, notifying him that the tutorial is still in progress, so he cannot use it yet. Kang Hyun realizes there are 8 stages in total for the tutorial. He also learns that, while it took him 7 attempts to clear stage 2, others have already finished all the stages. Kang Hyun asks if there's any other way besides clearing everything, and whether he has any information about the 3rd stage. Ian responds that patience is key, but unfortunately, even the information about stage 2 was scarce. Kang Hyun wonders aloud if he should go fight again, claiming that he's much stronger now and won't embarrass himself like before. He declares he'll clear stage 3 with style and precision. Later that night, in the stage 3 tutorial, Kang Hyun gets peed on by a monster. Furious, he curses that he'll definitely kill the monster. The system pops up, stating that stage 3 has started. Kang Hyun has to show his perseverance and patience by enduring any situation. The clear condition is to eliminate the Gurkha Chieftain, while the failure condition is death. Kang Hyun realizes that he's put on a ghillie suit and compliments the outfit, saying it really hits a man's fantasy. This mission must be an infiltration and assassination. He knows he has to eliminate the Gurkha Chieftain, so the first thing is to find them. He thinks he should check what he got from the 2nd stage first. They don't even give him time to check properly. He calls out the status window, looking over his improved status, and gets delighted, complimenting that this is exactly how a status window should look. The newly added shield and crossbow skills are okay, but for the additional stats, he decides to put them into strength and stamina, which will be immediately helpful. He thinks about putting 2 points into agility just in case, feeling like there was something else. A window pops up, asking if he would like to check his inventory. Inside, there is only a sword. Kang Hyun takes out the sword, quite excited about it, screaming that this is the most amazing thing he has. He declares that he has completed his pre-battle status check and must now find that Gurkha Chieftain. Carlos Hathcock, a legendary Marine sniper who successfully assassinated a general after crawling for 1.4 kilometers over 3 days, is the person Kang Hyun respects the most. He thinks about how he had been crawling for about 10 hours and is almost there. He notices that there are 2 guards on alert and considers forcing his way through. Kang Hyun realizes that his pants are soaked and sticky from the pee he has let out, and the grass is damp. Bugs are crawling inside his clothes. But suddenly, Kang Hyun sees a shadow in front of him and spots a masked person. He thinks he's been busted, but the masked person seems unaware of his presence and pees on Kang Hyun. Kang Hyun recalls that the notification didn't say to provoke. It does say he must prove his perseverance and patience. However, Kang Hyun loses his patience and dashes toward the person to slash him in 2, only to realize that the masked figure has woken up and screams for his companions. In an instant, Kang Hyun is surrounded. Kang Hyun thinks that since it's already too late, he might as well say the line he has always wanted to try. He provokes them to come at him, activating his skill, Lion's Roar of Rage, and enjoys the slaughter, but gets killed down in the end. In round 2, Kang Hyun screams at them to attack him again. There's something he learned from crawling for 10 hours in the first round. The Gurkha warriors seem to be out hunting during the day and only return to the village at sunset. In other words, only minimal forces remain during the day, and most of them are just small fry. Kang Hyun dashes into a tent, thinking he has found Gurkha Chieftain, but instead encounters 2 mages about to attack him. The mages activate their spell, and Kang Hyun is informed that he has been hit by the low-level magic skill. He realizes that he can't move his body and wonders what kind of tutorial has magic in it. Kang Hyun thinks there might be a way as he inhales and screams to activate his Lion's Roar of Rage skill. The mages are frozen for a moment, and Kang Hyun dashes toward the Gurkha Chieftain, taunting that everything was going according to a great plan until he got stabbed, as he slices the Gurkha Chieftain. The system pops up to inform him that he has cleared the stage. He will receive intermediate physical regeneration as a reward, has set a new record, and as an additional reward, he receives the temporary title of the Unyielding. He also levels up. Kang Hyun reflects that he cleared stage 3 in just 2 days, considering it took him a week to clear stage 2. This is a huge improvement. With this incredible growth, he reaches one conclusion. He might be a genius after all. At this rate, he might clear stage 4 in just a few minutes, imagining himself as a cool warrior who kills dragons. That's what he thought a month ago. As it's broadcast on TV, he learns that 25 days have passed since the deployment of a special unit of heirs to clear the dungeon. It's announced that 40% of the dungeon has been cleared domestically, while Awakener's civilians continue to participate in clearing activities. Kang Hyun screams out, as Ian asks if he's going off again with his nonsense, telling her brother that if he keeps it up, the neighbors are going to file a complaint. She asks if he got hit in the back of the head with an arrow today. Kang Hyun responds that he cleared it and just banged them all. Ian tells him he's going crazy, saying she couldn't handle it. She congratulates him, but upon seeing Kang Hyun in a weird state, she asks if something happened in his dream, noting that his face has changed. At the dining table, Ian asks why he has been like this since the morning. Kang Hyun, looking bulgy and bulked up, replies that the tutorial is getting on his nerves. Ian bids him good luck, saying that his face already looks like that of a criminal nowadays. She asks how the 4th stage is going, to which Kang Hyun explains that it's like a group project that requires showcasing leadership skills or something like that. The quest involves leading the party to destroy the dungeon core, and one could say it resembles a role-playing game. The party members act like NPCs, following their assigned rules, debating whether to move forward or retreat. They don't even have enough supplies to recklessly push forward with the mission. Despite strong opposition from 2 couples, the decision was ultimately made to proceed. He adds that, of course, he did a great job leading them at first. He boosted morale with the Roar of Fury and took the front line, thanks to the remarkable healing power of intermediate body regeneration. Ian asks if everything was fine and what took him a whole month. Kang Hyun states that the trouble started that night, cursing that those BTD were supposed to take turns on watch, but instead, they planned to escape together. When he caught them, they ambushed and killed him. He knew it from the start, ever since they dared to flirt inside the sacred dungeon. Kang Hyun tells the Ian that the Kim Hyun characters and similar situations are repeated in every episode. In such extreme conditions, he eventually found a breakthrough with his brilliant mind. Ian asks what it is. Kang Hyun creepily smiles and says that he just wants to eliminate all the annoying pests and proceed. In the tutorial 4th stage last episode, the NPCs argue that it would be a waste to become this and go back without any income, while another states that with limited food, what if they can't find the core? The earnings from the magic stones alone are enough. Suddenly, Kang Hyun screams to Roar, making them scream in pain. He points, warning them to follow his instructions, and if they resist, they will die. Even if they complain, they will die. An NPC questions whether he has gone crazy, but Kang Hyun punches him again and again, insisting that they just have to follow him because he knows the way. If they act up again, they will really be finished. On the way, Kang Hyun encounters the undead but deals with them quite easily. The other NPCs are almost shocked to their boots, and Kang Hyun sees the core, questioning if this is the core and thinking that he just needs to destroy the pillar, which seems simple. He destroys the pillar as the system states that he has cleared the 4th stage. He will receive 1 cut, 2 holes as a clear reward, along with a ring of strong mind as another reward. Considering the results, the gains from the 4th stage are not bad, and the ability stats grow exponentially, not to mention the ample monster drop items that could be forged. He still doesn't know the purpose of the magic stones, but if he stockpiles everything, there might be a use for them eventually. The skill obtained as a clear reward is 1 cut, 2 holes, along with the strong mind ring, and he compliments them as pretty good. But the most remarkable achievement is that he has become quite strong in reality as well. After exercising, Kang Hyun thinks that bodyweight exercises seem to be becoming less effective, and maybe he should start going to the gym. His phone rings, and he thinks he's getting an emergency alert about a certain dungeon appearing near his area. The scene shifts to the site near his home, where goblins are wreaking havoc, killing numerous people. The system states that if the dungeon is not cleared within a certain time, the dungeon door will be opened. Kang Hyun thinks that it could be today. He even filed a request for it to be cleared and realizes that his sister, Hyun, is in danger since she has gone off. He runs off, thinking he needs something that could be used as a weapon, and questions how there isn't a single cheap longsword here. Instead, he grabs a kitchen knife. He moves out, calling for the goblins. Kang Hyun thinks that, as expected, he can't use a skill yet, and thanks to that, he managed to draw their attention. The The goblins charge at him, and Kang Hyun taunts them, saying that the noises made by level 2 lobies are hard to hear, but still, there is. Kang Hyun realizes there's no guarantee that they will be at the Kim Hyun level as those in the tutorial, but somehow he can tell their level just by their movements. As he plunges the knife into a goblin in one go, he thanks it for coming and pulls out his knife, thinking he will make good use of it. The scene shifts to Ayan's office, where the door is barely stopped with furniture. Ayan thinks she messaged her brother for help but hears a scream from the door. As the furniture is tossed aside, a strange person comes in, apologizing that he didn't mean to break anything. As he says that Ayan's big brother is here, he scares the hell out of their pants. Kang Hyun states that he has arrived to see Ayan, and the other employees question who the heck he is and if he is Ayan's brother. An old man gets angry, screaming that he doesn't know who he is, but wonders how he could break the barricade and what they will do now that the monsters will run in there. Kang Hyun apologizes for it, but explains that he can't control his power. He assures them they don't need to worry anymore because he has killed them all on his way. The employees are left shocked that he handled them alone. Kang Hyun informs them that the weapons the goblins were using should just be held onto for a moment. He's actually not sure how long everyone can hold out, but he thinks that as long as they don't panic, they can beat them. Ayan asks Kang Hyun where he is going, for which Kang Hyun replies that on the way here, he saw more goblins swarming in, and they are probably on the upper floor as well, and at the very least, they should try to sleep peacefully after dealing with them. Ayan questions out to Kang Hyun, and he asks if it's okay to pour that much water, noting that they don't know if the situation will last, so they need to conserve it. Ayan tells him to shut up, insisting that his wounds need cleaning and questioning why he acts so tough and why he keeps getting hit so much. Kang Hyun says that maybe he hasn't practiced how to dodge, and his recovery ability is pretty amazing. He can take most attacks. But since he can't use any skills right now, it's a different case. Ayan asks how he can break about it, asking him to be careful. Ayan insists he should be the one to be careful. If he can't use his skill, he can't resurrect either. She tells him that his earlier move to deal with the remnants in the building was excessive. Kang Hyun asks if it wasn't cool, to which Ayan affirms that it was, saying he'll get beaten by someone. But she adds that other people might see things a bit differently. She explains that some of his seniors have asked her to introduce them to him and asks what he thinks and if he has a type. Kang Hyun replies that he just needs someone who is okay with a man who curses as soon as he wakes up, making Ayan laugh. Kang Hyun wakes up in the tutorial of Stage 5 as the system window states to prove his wisdom that can overcome any difficulty. He thinks he was just caught up earlier and realizes he is surrounded by a group of beautiful ladies. He questions what kind of stage this is. A window pops up to inform him that he must defeat the succubus disguised as women. Kang Hyun realizes that a succubus is a dream demon, a creature that appears in dreams and drains a man's vitality. They are famous for being beautiful, and he realizes that all the women here are incredibly stunning, so everyone is aware of the existence of succubus in this scenario. A girl approaches and asks Kang Hyun what he thinks about the succubus and who he thinks she is. Kang Hyun thinks that looking closely, she is really beautiful. He blushes, saying that he just has no idea, but he realizes, as a sudden window pops up, that the Ring of Strong will grant resistance to enchantment and immunity to all mind-related spells and mental attacks of a rank and below. At night, in the camp, Kang Hyun muses that Stage 1 was the Inferno Circus, Stage 2 was a week-long battle with goblins, in Stage 3, he ended up getting hit with a monster piss after 10 hours of crawling, and Stage 4 was a month-long group project from hell. He finally can enjoy interesting things, and after just rolling like a dog, he finds himself in this state. He thinks he has been cursing himself and wonders why he prepared this for him. He realizes that he should control his expression because the person who recognizes the identity of the succubus will be targeted. If she realizes that he figured it out, it will be over for him. He thinks that the succubus are likely strong beings and can disguise themselves as humans. It's wiser to use NPCs than males since male NPCs might fall under the succubus's charm. It's better to use a female NPC. He decides to sleep and think about it again later. Kang Hyun sleeps and wakes up in the office, thinking that the ceiling is familiar. He realizes that this is Ayan's office. Nearby employees ask if he's awake, informing him that the army has just arrived. Kang Hyun grits his fist, thinking that the succubus must have noticed that he knows. She probably killed him while he was asleep. As Kang Hyun questions who came, the scene shifts to the army deploying to deal with the goblins. Kang Hyun sees the army has really come, and the other people are relieved, believing they are safe since the monsters are nothing against military guns. However, Kang Hyun states that it's not over yet as he feels a shudder throughout his body, questioning what that feeling was and why he senses something dangerous coming. In the army vehicle, soldiers state that it's endless and they have to shoot these goblins. One soldier complains that this is happening right before his leave, only to realize his comrade is being slaughtered by a single goblin. The soldier urges his comrade to attack, saying they've already been killed, but there's a goblin, and it's more dangerous. As a soldier tries to shoot, the bullet bounces off the goblin, which charges at the soldiers, slaughtering them. They question what the hell has happened and what they should do. Kang Hyun, witnessing this scene from aboard, locks eyes with a goblin that stares back at him. The injured soldiers question what is happening, to which one comrade informs them that it looks like the third squad was hit, along with the signalman. The soldier asks about the signalman and urges him to submit a support request quickly, addressing the other as Corporal Jong Jae-hoon. Hoon states that what on earth came out to be this bad, realizing that the red goblin is licking its tongue above him. Hoon asks about the support, and his comrade replies that they will send one capable civilian. Hoon gets angry, saying he's going to go crazy as the goblin tries to attack him at this moment. He realizes that his gun is useless. Suddenly, Kang Hyun arrives and throws a boulder at the goblin, sending it flying. Hoon asks what happened as Kang Hyun jumps to climb the car, asking if he's okay and scaring the daylights out of Hoon. Hoon gets scared to see the scary face of Kang Hyun pointing his gun towards Kang Hyun. He warns him, calling him a monster. Kang Hyun remarks that he must be going through a lot of hardship as a soldier in this situation. Kang Hyun, taken aback, tells him to put away his gun and says he doesn't look human, asking if he might need to think twice. Hoon realizes that this person is a volunteer, and he certainly looks strong. Hoon apologizes to Kang Hyun, saying he was a bit out of his mind. Kang Hyun reassures him that it's understandable since he barely escaped death. Hoon thanks him for helping, but Kang Hyun replies that there is no need for that. He didn't come because of a sense of justice. Kang Hyun questions if it's happening again, as the BTD obviously made eye contact with him. He thinks that if the army is engaged, these monsters would have come to Ayun's company rather than weighing him down. It's better to handle it here. Kang Hyun asks Hoon not to shoot his gun because if he gets hit, he will have holes in him. He then asks if Hoon has something like tear gas. Hoon states that almost all operational weapons have been loaded, to which Kang Hyun says that's good and asks him to OPO one of those for him. Hoon asks him to take a gas mask, but Kang Hyun insists it's okay and asks him to hurry up. There's no time to explain. He urges Hoon to make sure there's no gunfire in his way, and if he makes a mistake, he's finished. Hoon complies, ordering all his platoon members to wear gas masks, stay alert, and shoot only at the approaching monsters, never turning their guns toward the center of the street. As Kang Hyun approaches the red goblin, he says that the table is set and apologizes, stating he has a lot of resentment towards its kind. Hoon throws the tear gas toward the goblin, causing it to scream in pain. Kang Hyun thinks that goblins struggle when they are frustrated, and once they bounce away, this must be their first experience of pain like this. Kang Hyun dashes toward the goblin, crying from the tear gas, stating that it seems like its pain tolerance is quite high. He probably is most used to pain, and as he slashes down his weapon to confuse the goblin, he continues to attack it, saying that this is really freaking hard. As he repeatedly tries to stab the monster, a soldier questions if he's an awakener. From behind, a strange person asks what exactly is happening, stating that they thought they were the only supporters. Dealing with the monster, Kang Hyun thinks that this BTD he never expected it might cause damage. If it continues like this, his stamina will only decline. He considers wearing something like a joint device, but the only thing he knows is to cut from behind. A voice tells him to wait as the strange masked person slashes the goblin. Kang Hyun thinks that is fast and wonders who that person is. The strange person thinks that this cutting has no sense. It feels like using a knife to cut a rock. The soldier tells Kang Hyun that no matter what, he's just a boss of an F-class dungeon, and since the defense is abnormally strong, there must be other weaknesses. Kang Hyun acknowledges that he seems to know a lot. He charges the goblin, stating that he doesn't know who he is, but he understands, asking if he has any ideas. First, he suggests that the goblin's physical strength isn't that strong, and its stamina is probably almost exhausted. Kang Hyun asks what to do when it runs out of strength. Kang Hyun states that there is no damage as he tries to slash the goblin, but then the sword breaks in two. Kang Hyun thinks he should have something like a weapon. Spotting the goblin's weapon, he dives down to grab it. The soldier mentions that he has speed, but he lacks the power to deal a finishing blow, asking him to attack the vital area while he holds the goblin down. Kang Hyun picks up the weapon, thinking that even if it's a critical hit, it's probably just for show, but of course, he knows that he has to defend himself. He questions where he should attack. Perhaps the joint behind, as the skin might be weak there. Kang Hyun charges at the goblin aimlessly, trying to penetrate it, but as he does, he finds that he has penetrated through goblins but... Seeing this, Kang Hyun somehow feels sorry for the goblin. Kang Hyun thinks that as the unpleasant sensation traveled up the handle, a philosophical question flashed through his mind. If the anus is a vital point? He doubted it could be a weakness that would cause instant death. The decision was made in an instant, and his body was already executing the next move as he lifted the goblin to throw him down. Kang Hyun jumped onto the goblin, stating that it surely can't be hard to penetrate all the way into its mouth as he drove the spear through it. The soldier thinks that he is strong, questioning where such a skilled person came from and if he is unaffiliated. Kang Hyun realizes that something is popping up from the goblin's head, as a window appears that states the item information cannot be checked because the tutorial is still in progress. Kang Hyun thinks he's not sure what he will use it for, but he will take it for now. It's a shame there is no inventory, and this damn tutorial needs to end quickly. The soldier approaches Kang Hyun from behind. Kang Hyun thinks that usually items need to be distributed, but that person just jumped in midway and took it all for himself. Kang Hyun decides to bolt. He dashes out in a hurry, saying he has some urgent business, so he will be going first. The soldier is left dumbfounded as Kang Hyun bids him farewell and leaves. The strange soldier asks himself what kind of person that was. Several hours after defeating the hobgoblin, the situation seemed to have settled down somewhat. After passing through streets that looked like ruins from a disaster movie, Kang Hyun and Ian were finally able to return home only after their surroundings had darkened. At home, the Ian asked Kang Hyun if he left without closing the door, to which he replied that it seems like that. Ian mentions she needs something he has grown out of in the bathroom. In bed, Kang Hyun questions why she keeps pecking at his hands. The scene shifts, and he wakes up from his sleep, wondering why she keeps pecking at his face while reading comments about his horrible looks. Kang Hyun asks if it's really that bad, and Ian affirms it. Kang Hyun states that they are in big trouble, saying to turn off the lights. He pleaded with her, asking her to come on. Ian replies that she will turn it off this time since he's had a tough time, but asks him not to yell in the morning because she's dead tired too. Ian assures him not to worry, saying that the stage is a freebie and they should have a beer on him tomorrow while she tells him all about it. Ian mentions that his confidence is almost at the level of a death flag now, and she doesn't expect much but wishes him good luck. Kang Hyun falls asleep, thinking that the guy from earlier was quite strong. He wonders how many stages he has cleared and remembers he should have eliminated at stage 2 originally. He sleeps, concluding that there's no point in overthinking it and that he's going to clear up to stage 8 after all because he will become stronger than anyone else. He drifts off, questioning if that succubus from yesterday was really pretty, even though it was a monster that killed him. He feels kind of excited to meet her again. Kang Hyun wakes up in the tutorial, questioning that even if it's total, it's not bad to take a good look, as he encounters a goblin in front of him. Kang Hyun gets scared, shouting that the goblin almost gave him a heart attack as he throws it off. He questions what in the world it is, and the goblin appears with a stat window in front of him, stating that the clear condition is to evade the cave goblin and clear the dungeon, while the failure condition is death. Kang Hyun grins, questioning why the tutorial content changed. After dealing with the screams in the morning, the scene shifts to a department store where a person is getting beaten. He questions how someone who hasn't even participated in the tutorial yet can be stronger than an ability user. The blonde person replies that not much has changed, questioning the use of being a bit stronger if they don't know how to fight, and then punches him down. He adds that he considers it fortunate, licking his tongue and saying that there seem to be many interesting ability users out there while thinking about Kang Hyun's fight with the hobgoblin. In the tutorial stage 5, round 3, the clear condition was to defeat the doppelganger. a monster that hides among the masses and eats humans every night. Kang Hyun thinks that a monster that eats humans every night and that he needs to find and defeat the doppelganger is reminiscent of finding the succubus in the first round. Rather than that, this is just a mafia game. Kang Hyun believes he has the wisdom to break through as he screams up to gather everyone's attention. He declares that from now on, anyone who moves is a culprit. At this time, he forgets that in a mafia game, it's usually the talkative one who dies first. He got killed off. Kang Hyun reflects that he has never actually won a mafia game and never expected that he would keep repeating the Kim Hyun failure for over a month and a half. As Kang Hyun approaches Ian, stating that he has dressed up in strange clothes, claiming that this older brother of his has been smartly reborn, Ian is left creepily shocked, questioning what kind of mess she is supposed to deal with after getting off. Kang Hyun explains that he tried changing his appearance to change his inner self. He adds that it's been 53 days, and he has died 53 times on this damn stage 5. He has to do something. They say to use wisdom to pass, but the content changes every time. Even a member couldn't solve it. Ian questions whether it would be faster to get someone else's brain transplanted than for him to get smarter. She states that he's saying the Kim Hyun old crazy thing and advises that if he has money to buy a suit, he should use it to soundproof his room and install a subwoofer just like the neighbors who live downstairs. The scene shifts as a window pops up in front of Kang Hyun to prove his wisdom that can overcome any difficulty. Kang Hyun realizes that he is in a cave, a dungeon, and wonders what kind of crappy mission they have prepared for him this time. But seeing the window, he gets quite excited, calling it the real deal, as the clear condition is to completely clear the F-rank Terank's hatchery dungeon. The scene shifts towards a spitting Terank Kang Hyun, who thinks how the condition can be so neat and straightforward. He dashes towards the Terank, finally finding a solution that even Aristotle would somersault over. As he crouches over the Terank, but to realize that the spider pit venom on his hand is getting dissolved, he questions if this is because of the poison. He slashes his arm to get rid of the poison. Kang Hyun slips through the Terank's legs, saying that it hurts. The window informs Kang Hyun that clues to the spitting Terank's weakness are hidden in the hatch. As he slays the Terank from below, he ultimately chooses to break through forcefully, thinking that weakness and a key don't matter anyway. He will just smash it instead of looking for the key. The system congratulates Kang Hyun for clearing stage 5 and rewards him with Giant's power. Kang Hyun moves on, saying that brains are only for those with bad bodies. The scene shifts inside a school, where a student asks Kwon Min Seo to give him a birthday punch. Min Seo replies that he's already exhausted from that damn tutorial. His friend asks how stage 1 was, and Min Seo says it was just as crappy as the rumors said. The problem is what comes next. There are no decent tips from stage 5 onward. His friend mentions that they said just clearing stage 4 puts him in the top 1, and they probably keep valuable information tightly guarded among themselves. As Min Seo's phone rings, his friend mentions a new update. He says someone cleared stage 7 even yesterday and is going to challenge stage 8, questioning if it's a fake. The stage 4 theme is leadership, stage 5 is wisdom, stage 6 is cruelty, which involves destroying both enemies and allies, and stage 7 is devotion, where one only destroys enemies. Min Seo questions what this means, and when Kang Hyun posted this, he gets quite bashed in the comments. Kang Hyun gets angry that these BTD are really ungrateful after he went out of his way to share the best tips with them. Ian asks why he is shouting and causing a fuss again, to which Kang Hyun replies that he personally revealed this advanced tutorial strategy, but these guys don't believe him. Ian moves out, questioning why he is being so nosy and meddling in things like this, calling him an old geezer. Kang Hyun asks her to just wait. Once he clears stage 8, he will become the 3rd tutorial graduate in South Korea, rising to the Kim Hyun level as Han Seon, the guild leader of Dangun Guild, or Choi Dong-won, the president of the Ability Users Alliance. Ian laughs, questioning how he can compare himself to the geniuses who cleared it in one go with those who took over 4 months to clear it. Kang Hyun asks her to shut up, stating that he cleared stage 6 and stage 7 in one go as well. As Kang Hyun is welcomed by the tutorial notification that he has completed the tutorial stage 7, asking if he would like to enter stage 8. The stage 6 clear reward was a great B weapon, the Bilgain long sword, while the stage 7 reward was Ronald's armor. Kang Hyun thinks that if he clears stage 8, he can use it in reality through his inventory. He needs to check the item that dropped from the hobgoblin. As he is welcomed by the tutorial, Kang Hyun thinks he doesn't expect to clear it in one go, but as long as it doesn't take more than a week, he will be fine. A window pops up questioning what his belief is, and Kang Hyun ponders it as he feels a certain thrust from above. He questions whether the space is crunching down as he falls. Kang Hyun wakes up, finding himself in the middle of the road, realizing that people are passing through him. He thinks, is he in a formless state right now? It's the first time he has seen a scene in the tutorial, and he questions if this is Earth. But upon seeing the people around him, he realizes they are not humans. Kang Hyun notices a person and realizes they made eye contact, and he wonders if they can see him. Kang Hyun realizes that they are not seeing him. They aren't even looking at him. From behind him, an army of countless monsters wreaks havoc, and he realizes these are monsters he has seen before and some he has never seen. Kang Hyun realizes this is on a completely different level compared to the dungeon opening he experienced 2 months ago, and it's like a scene from the top. The system states that the time remaining until complete connection with the hand dimension is 4 years, 278 days, 23 hours, 32 minutes, and 24 seconds. Kang Hyun thinks, is this what Earth will look like in 5 years? Suddenly, a huge shadow envelopes Kang Hyun. He turns around to see a colossal monster before him that extends its hand toward him to send him into another realm. Kang Hyun questions what that was just now and whether it was a monster as well. He hears a strange voice asking how he feels, and he questions a white-like light, asking if he's a god or something. The entity declines, stating that, to put it simply, he can think of him as a kind of dimensional administrator, and this stage has a personal interview with him. The administrator invites him to feel free to ask anything he has been curious about, as this is also time for him to ask questions. Kang Hyun asks what he just saw, questioning whether Earth will become like that in 5 years. The administrator responds that it depends on what he and everyone else do from now on. Kang Hyun says he doesn't understand. If he is such a great being, why doesn't he just stop this situation himself? The administrator answers that, as he mentioned, he is just an administrator, not a guardian. He only maintains balance, the status window, and the tutorial he gave him. That's the best he can do. The administrator asks to pose a question. He asks what beliefs have guided him and for what he has lived so far. Kang Hyun thinks, what kind of crap is he poking at? That's a pretty profound question. Why is he asking that? The administrator states that after observing humans during this event, he became curious, and all sentient beings are interesting, but humans, especially so. Kang Hyun thinks they are observing for some reason that really pisses him off. He says that in his circle, no one lives their life thinking about crap like that. They are just struggling to be a bit happier since birth, surviving day by day. The administrator asks whether he has anything he wants to protect. Kang Hyun replies that his little sister and parents, and he has to protect his family. The administrator asks whether he has ever thought of becoming a hero, to which Kang Hyun responds that after dying a few times, he has come to know his place. That kind of cool job but exhausting is not for him. The administrator says that from what he has absorbed, heroes definitely have natural talent, and he, Kang Hyun, is closer to being untalented, making Kang Hyun furious. The administrator states that personally, he is a fan of him. Watching him conquer the tutorial has brought him so much fun and excitement. Kang Hyun thinks that he called that fun. An administrator who is a sadist, and the future of Earth is quite in danger. He asks the administrator if the 5th stage, where wisdom is the theme, is supposed to change every time. The administrator pauses for a moment and states that time is up. He says he had fun and disappears. A window pops up stating that he has cleared stage 8, with the administrator informing him that the tutorial is just a fat kid and that more trials await him. Whether he wants it or not, he believes that Kang Hyun will become the hero who saves the world. Kang Hyun screams that the 5th stage was all his doing. The administrator congratulates him on graduating from the tutorial. Kang Hyun curses him out, as the administrator states that he will be looking forward to it. The system pops up, informing Kang Hyun that he is the 62nd person to graduate from the tutorial and that he has acquired the title of tutorial graduate. Kang Hyun, in a blank space, thinks that, as expected, stage 5 was the administrator's doing. When he wakes up, he finds himself getting puffed up by the smelling socks. Kang Hyun questions what this is, to which Ian responds that he's awake and that she expected him to scream, so she covered his mouth in advance. Kang Hyun asks if she really had to shove the box in his mouth. Ian replies that if he's pissed, he should just wake up quietly. Judging by his face, it seems he failed again. She asks how long he thinks it will take this time. Kang Hyun grins, calling for the status window to appear before him, laughing and saying that's the power of his brother, and he guesses he's a capable person. Ian moves out, saying that it's good for him, and she asks him to go make some money while she makes breakfast as a special treat. Kang Hyun asks her to at least congratulate him a little and remarks that no wonder she doesn't have a boyfriend if she's getting smacked by a tool by her sister. As Ian heads out, Kang Hyun pores over his status window, thinking that the title he got after clearing stage 8 isn't all that great. He thinks he cannot stack titles, but of course, he should apply for the tutorial graduate title. Kang Hyun is excited that he has been waiting for this moment. The mysterious item he got after defeating the hobgoblin, he thinks he has to reveal its true nature. As he sees it's a magic explosion book, he shivers in excitement and screams that after 4 months of shouting in the open, he finally mastered the art of screaming in silent mode. A window pops up, asking if he would like to learn the skill of magic explosion, and Kang Hyun excitedly agrees. Another window appears, informing him that he has acquired the skill of magic explosion. Kang Hyun thinks that all right, he has finished sorting the loot, and now that the loot is sorted, he should apply for admission to the Awakener's Abilities Training School. The scene shifts to a girl named Ahan Mai-aung, a newly appointed public servant. Her first assignment is at the Awakener's Abilities Training School, where those who have completed the tutorial must pass through to obtain their certification. Their country's training system for work abilities is said to have developed rapidly, becoming one of the best in the world, likely because a similar system already existed. They may be rookies, but they are the future heroes. She thinks that witnessing the start of their journey is incredibly rewarding, or so she thought just a few hours ago. As Mai-aung shivers in fear, she tears up, asking Kang Hyun to show her his ID. Kang Hyun, seeing a different photo in the identification, asks what she said as she sniffles. Mai-aung, crying, asks why he is doing this to her. Kang Hyun declines, saying what the problem is. As nearby people gossip about whether he made her cry or is threatening her, Kang Hyun hesitates nervously, saying he didn't do anything. From behind, a voice asks if there is something wrong, and Mai-aung calls out the person as instructor Kim I-hyun. Kim I-hyun says it seems like the process is moving a bit slowly and asks if there is a problem. Kim I-hyun thinks Kang Hyun looks kind of familiar, which Kang Hyun feels too. Kim I-hyun asks if he could see the document for a moment, and Kang Hyun hands it to him. Kim I-hyun remarks that he looks quite different from his photo. Kang Hyun explains that his appearance changed because of a skill and swears that it's really him. If he's not convinced, he can do a fingerprint or DNA test. Kim I-hyun asks if he cleared the tutorial up to stage 5, and Kang Hyun confirms that he did. Kim I-hyun says that his level is 12, which is pretty high, and asks if he has ever raided a dungeon illegally. Kang Hyun thinks he lowered it by more than half, but it's still too high. He admits that he entered a few times before the law was enacted. Kim I-hyun asks what exactly is the strength he listed as his unique ability. Kang Hyun excitedly responds that he temporarily doubles his strength. Kim I-hyun thanks him for his cooperation and asks him to move with him as he questions for one more thing, stating that in stage 3, individuals receive a skill, as he asks Kang Hyun to show him every skill. Kang Hyun affirms to show him as he explains that for stage 3, he bites off his arm to show his regeneration skill. Kim I-hyun notes that he has a self-healing skill. He adds that in stage 4, an accessory, and in stage 5, another skill. He needs to see all of those rewards now. Kang Hyun responds that he is so meticulous, saying here is the skill he got for gaining stage 5. Kang Hyun then shows his ring for stage 4. He thinks he turned Giant's power into man's strength as his unique ability, saying that it's a skill that inflicts fear in nearby enemies by shouting, and asks if it's alright if he shows it here. Kim I-hyun says he is free to use it. The blonde from before stares at Kang Hyun and questions what that is, resembling him from the Goblin Slayer. As the blonde covers his ears, Kang Hyun screams out. Jolting nearby people, Kang Hyun asks if that's enough to prove himself. Kim I-hyun says it's alright and instructs him to go to the first floor of the adjacent Gunmu building. The blonde blushes, making quite a creepy face. Previously, Kang Hyun was almost denied entry because he looked different from his ID photo, but after unleashing a furious roar, it seems he has gotten on their bad side. Nearby, students gossip about how Kang Hyun screamed at the woman so fiercely that she fainted. As Kim Hyun enters, he introduces himself, saying that he will be leading the training at the Songun branch of the Ability User Training School and that it's nice to meet them. He explains that the training will consist of 10 days of morning theory classes and afternoon practical sessions, with meals and accommodations provided. If there are no major issues, they should all be able to complete the course safely and obtain their certification. He tells everyone that, as they know, less than half of the trainees have passed, and the world changes every day. New information about dungeons and monsters is pouring in, which is why tactics and strategies are constantly evolving. In other words, what they are about to learn right now is not the absolute right answer. There may be incorrect information or data that could soon become useless. Therefore, he will only teach them things that are essential for their survival over the next 10 days. He looks forward to working with them. After the period, Kim Hyun announces a 10-minute break after the next session. Kang Hyun thinks that this is as boring as Reserve Army mental training, and they are going to do this for 10 days. As he is approached by a burly man introducing himself as Kwak Sul, he asks to shake hands. Kang Hyun questions what's with this muscle guy as he introduces himself to do a handshake. Sul smiles, activating his skill and asking to take care of him. Sul thinks that he has Kang Hyun and that with a guy like this, it's best to put him in his place right from the start. He has disliked him since the moment he started causing a commotion over nothing, but as he feels the resistance, he questions what the hell is up with this guy and how he's holding out. Kang Hyun calls on his giant's power to retaliate against Sul, who is taken aback, thinking that he is losing in a power contest. He has devoted all his stats to strength alone and curses that everyone around him is watching. He can't back down and look pathetic, so he tries to grit his teeth, but instead, his nerve is poked, causing blood to come out. Yuziang blushes and laughs as the hospital takes Max away. Kang Hyun is taken to the office, trying to convince them that the muscle person came first and asked for a handshake. While they were grunting and puffing up their arms, he suddenly burst with a bang. Kim Hyun asks if he is asking him to believe that, to which Kang Hyun replies that it's driving him crazy. There's no need to believe or not believe. It's the truth. Fortunately, his unique ability, Strength of the Strong, increased his strength by 1.5 times. If he hadn't had it, he could have been injured, and if Kim Hyun doesn't trust him, he can just check the CCTV first. Kim Hyun asks if he didn't say his unique ability is called Man's Strength, and Kang Hyun is taken aback, affirming that it's correct. Kim Hyun asks if he said it increases strength by 2 times, not 1.5 times. Kang Hyun laughs, saying he must have gotten confused because he's not good with numbers. This makes Kim Hyun suspicious, but he lets it go, saying that he understands for now and asks him to return to the classroom. As Kang Hyun sits in the classroom, he is greeted by Yuziang, who asks if he can sit beside him. Kang Hyun agrees, saying to do whatever he wants, as Yuziang introduces himself as an Yuziang. Kang Hyun introduces himself in turn. Yuziang asks if he can call him brother, explaining that he just turned 18 and has already finished the tutorial, requesting Kang Hyun to speak to him informally. Kang Hyun thinks that he seems to be the older one here based on appearances. Yuziang then asks how he did that earlier, questioning if the muscle guy's arm exploded with a bang. It was incredible and asks if it was a skill. Kang Hyun realizes this guy isn't normal but tries to convince him that the muscle guy's arm exploded on its own, as they are interrupted by Kim Hyun, who announces the start of the second period. He explains that due to the significant delay, he will focus on the key points. He teaches that dungeons are currently categorized into 2 types: regular dungeons and incomplete dungeons. Regular dungeons are the most common. They usually open 4 weeks after their appearance. As they already know from experience, dungeon opening refers to the phenomenon where monsters start pouring out from within. An incomplete dungeon is a dungeon whose opening time cannot be predicted. It can happen sooner or later than 4 weeks, so constant vigilance is always necessary. He questions how they prevent a dungeon from opening. There are always 2 ways to do this. One way is to clear the dungeon by targeting the central core, while the other method is to periodically remove the normal cores to delay the dungeon's opening. However, they need to be careful about the order in which they attack the core. when he is interrupted by the muscle guy, asking if there's anything else needed to deal with the monsters, questioning whether he thinks he came here to listen to this useless lecture. Kang Hyun states that there are more muscleheads here, with a person from before, and that those muscle types are the problem. The security warns the trainee that if he causes trouble one more time, he will be expelled, but he is stopped by Kim Hyun. Kim Hyun asks the trainee to calm down and to come down, and the trainee does so, saying he has some pride. As he comes out, he asks what he is going to do, for which Kim Hyun states that for 1 minute, starting from now, he will dodge and block his attacks. If he even grabs his body, he will graduate him immediately. If he fails, he will be expelled. Does he want to do it? Hearing this, Kang Hyun and Yuzeong think that Muscle Man 2 is so arrogant. It's a bit annoying, but it looks like fun, so he guesses it's fine, as they both smile creepily.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe. And if you'd like to contribute further, you can now buy me a coffee. Every little bit helps in creating more quality content for you. Just click the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description below. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video.